so much for sorry. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. And today what I'm going to talk about is Cambodia and the projects that we've been doing over there. So to start with, I'm going to show you a little picture of the map over there. Some of you have been, I understand, working with Chris Snyder, I think, headquartered or started that project. But Cambodia is, well, on the right-hand side, that's Vietnam, and because the colors aren't that clear. The next one is Cambodia. And then the next one, the yellow one, is Thailand. And to the light green up above, that's Laos. So that gives you kind of an idea of where they're situated.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are not seeing the slideshow.
Oh, okay.
We're just seeing the main PowerPoint page. You have to start the slideshow before sharing, Jeff. So close the slideshow and then open it, or sorry, stop sharing, close the slideshow, start the slideshow, and then share.
You're gonna hit stop share on the page. Exit of that, right at the bottom, you'll see in the middle, the red button here. It says stop share now. Stop. There you go. Now you can open up the slide.
Now when you go to share the slideshow, not PowerPoint.
Stop. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Start the slides.
So back up to, yeah.
Then share.
Yeah,
Ross.
okay.
Can you guys hear now? See it?
Yep.
Okay, good.
No, it's not. We're not going forward, John. Sorry. That's okay.
Then move the cursor. It used to work a lot better at Bell when you were there, right, Patty?
You sure do. You sure do. We had fun.
There we go. These ones right here.
Okay, we're working. Which
Yeah,
one?
these three. These ones right in here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, okay, that hasn't changed.
It's on the screen.
It's working here, but not there. Okay,
You might have to just go. Okay,
really?
yeah. Sorry, guys.
Jay's coming. He might know.
Want to have a look at it? You know, we're in the Zoom. We got to get the presentation back up.
And can you just, is this a two-screen operation, Kylie?
Yeah.
Let me just try something here. What's that? Okay, now
I'm
just-
driving back to Toronto.
which way is it you're at? Oops, which way is the slides?
Okay. So now let me tell you about Cambodia. Some of you know some of this, but just in case you don't, I think it's very important that you hear about the country itself. So Cambodia has had an incredibly bad situation as far as war is concerned. During the Vietnam War, they were not in the war, but the US dropped over 540,000 tons of bombs on Cambodia, even though they weren't in the war. Now, these were like, and inside them would be 500 little bombies. Those little bombies are kind of about that size, which for those that can't see, they're smaller than a soccer ball, a little bigger than a softball. not all of them exploded. So we call those unexploded ordnances, just to give you an information. So that's one situation. Then they had the Khmer Rouge. So the Khmer Rouge came in 75, were there almost 4 years. In 75, Cambodia had 8 million people in the country. When they left, at least 2 million had been killed. It was a true genocide. They killed the people with soft hands, that wore eyeglasses, that were educated, that were teachers, doctors, monks, few priests and others that were there. But not only that, they killed all of their family. They wanted to get rid of those genes because they wanted everybody to be agrarian. So that was an incredible genocide. And then following that, Vietnam decided they wanted to take them over. So there was a civil war sort of between Vietnam and Cambodia. So I want you to think about this as sort of 25 years of terrible war. By 1990, they were trying to recover. And if you hear any humanitarians that were over there, they'll tell you that it was unbelievable how many people were landmine victims. Now, there's still today, by the way, over 4 million landmines or unexploded ordnances in the fields in Cambodia. Out of the 25 provinces, about 10 of them are still classified as unsafe. And I brought with me an example of what a small landmine can look like. And that, you can only imagine what a child might do with that. Pick it up, think it's a pop, whatever. Just as a side. Okay, but it's also a beautiful country. Look at the architecture in the picture on the left at the top. Just beautiful. And below it is Siem Reap, Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. And Angkor Wat is the largest freestanding religious building in the world. Built in about the 11th century and changed to Buddhist in the 12th. So it's a very important, it's so important, it's on their flag. That's how important it is for the industry of tourism. In the upper right, you'll just see a street market. And one of my favorites is the lower right. That guy's got it all figured out. He's a street person, but it's great temperature to be out on the street. So he's got his own hammock, his own chair. He's wired up to get his cell phone charged. The guy's got it figured out. Anyway, in this picture, this is how the people travel. So there's still a few people traveling, like with elephants and so on, but a lot of people walk. And of course, most of the locals have mopeds or motorbikes of one sort and another, and the whole family travels on it. So you'll see the mother, the father, and 2, 3 kids easily on any one of them. The tourists normally travel by tuk-tuk, which is the lower right corner, pulled by a motorbike. There's a lot of people that still live on or near the water. So if you look at the picture in the bottom left, you'll see that these houses are up on stilts. That's because in the rainy season, they're so close to the water that they need the stilts to keep their homes dry. On the right-hand side, you'll see 2 families living on the water. They do everything in the water. I'm emphasizing the word everything. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Barbara and I. Barbara and her husband and I used to take groups around the world on what we called bridge trips. And we'd say to them, we're going to go and do a safari. Would you like to come with us? And they'd say, sure. And, you know, you go out in the morning, you go out in the evening, but during the day, we would either teach them bridge, run bridge games or whatever. So we had quite a following. You know, we'd go to Japan and China. I think we had 108 people with us that trip. So we were always having people with us. One time we decided we were going to go to Vietnam and Cambodia. And we heard about a lady that was working with a school in Cambodia that needed some bikes because the kids were walking 3 or 4 kilometers to get to school. And it cost $50 Canadian to get a bike. No, we didn't bring the bikes with us. You raised money, you gave it, you sent it to them, and they were buying bikes there and fixing them up or buying used bikes, whatever. So we started this. I only heard about her a month before we left, and I started emailing her and so on. By the time we were halfway through our trip, which was through Vietnam, I wrote to her and said, you know, I think we're going to be somewhere near you. Can we come and see the school? And she said, better still, come and give out the bikes. By then we'd raised enough for 40 bikes. So we were welcomed, as you can see. And in the bottom right corner, that's the teacher there. He was trying to teach dental hygiene. The kids were sitting on a cement floor, no desks, no chairs. A hole in the floor was their toilet. And on the left, you can see the beautiful bikes and so on. And we gave them out. And that was very uplifting, but you'll see that none of the children are smiling. We couldn't get them to smile for a picture. And the reason was getting a bike was too serious. If they got a bike, that was a bike for the family. That was a bike so that mom could go to the doctor. That was a bike so that mom could go and buy some groceries at the market. So it was very serious. One of the things I want to point out to you is in the lower left corner, that gentleman only has one leg. So he's taking his young daughter and their bike home, and she'll be riding it in no time. And by the way, if you're in the countryside and you see the kids on the bikes, there's often 4 kids on one bike, one on each fender, one sitting on the seat, and one pedaling like heck. And they're so cute. Now, the other picture in the bottom right is what the school looked like from the back. And I don't know how it happened. Barbara and I had been going all over the place all these years, taking extra suitcases full of things for kids. But somehow this place really got to both of us. And we kind of looked at each other and said, they don't need bikes, they need a school. So we went back and said to them, how much would it cost to change your, rebuild your school? Well, of course, they'd never seen us before. They thought it was pretty hilarious. But nonetheless, they gave us an estimate a couple of months later, and we decided to go for it. And by the way, this picture, I want you to know that my back is to the school when I took this picture. And that's where some of the kids lived. That was the kind of living places that these kids had. And they still came to school beautifully clean. But anyway, we decided to build the school. So we started fundraising. And that was our friends and our family, but a lot of Bridge people, because we knew Bridge people both in Canada and the US. And in 2012, we went back for the opening. So we were there in 2011, there in 2012. Since then, we've never been back together. It's a long way. I go and stay quite a while, and it's expensive. And we pay all of our own expenses, all of our travel, any money that's raised goes to the projects, doesn't go to supporting us traveling there. So we take turns going. So I just came back, and I'll talk a little more about that. So since then, what have we done? Well, we started our own not-for-profit here in Canada, and we became a legal entity of the Canadian Landmine Foundation. So the Canadian Landmine Foundation gives tax receipts to our Canadian donors. We developed a wonderful working relationship with a charity in the US called the Vision for Clean Water. Our US donors get tax receipts from them. Now, we have donors from other countries. Unfortunately, they don't get tax receipts. But on all of our volunteers, the only person we pay is an accountant that does the stuff for us for Canada's tax things. I mean, we do most of our own, spreadsheets and whatnot, and she charges us next to nothing. So that's the only person we pay. I joined the board of the Canadian Landmine Foundation in 2020. I also joined Rotary that year, and I'm a board advisor at A Vision for Clean Water. So we have an organization in Cambodia. It's called Banyan Tree Organization. It's also a not-for-profit. We have 18 employees now. Now they're all, well, one of them is full-time, but the rest are all part-time. We have Savin. They have their last name first, by the way, in Cambodia. So Savin is our director. Pon is our assistant director. Pon and his wife, Pon is 67. Pon and his wife are Khmer Rouge survivors. It's horrendous stories if you ever want to talk to them. And we have 16 teachers and librarians. So it's quite robust. And we've just taken on our 5th school. So we now have 650 kids in school with us. And these are our schools. Nothing flashy, nothing, big, beautiful little schools. And you can see with the numbers from 1 to 5 where they're located. So those are provinces in Cambodia, and most of our work is in Takayo and Kampot in those 2 southern provinces, but we have a little school up in Battambang. So what do our schools do? Well, we teach English, we teach computer skills, we teach dental care, hygiene. We try to give them skills that they don't have. Now, they go to government schools in the morning. Traditionally, they start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and some of the younger ones finish earlier and the older ones go for longer. So they start coming to us in the afternoon. So the kids we see first are the younger ones. And during our 4 to 5 and 5 to 6 classes, we're seeing the older kids. And so they come to us not only because they want to learn English, but because we've got books, we've got a library, and they can come and sit in the library and read. And it's huge for them because those are probably the only books they're going to see outside of some textbooks potentially. And we do a lot of outreach programs. So for example, we taught women how to sew and gave them a sewing machine so that they could take the sewing machine home, do piecemeal work from home and still raise their kids. Very simple, very inexpensive, thing to do, but very profoundly sensible. And this is what some of our kids look like in our schools. And Cambodian people are some of the happiest people you'll ever meet. And they have nothing almost. A lot of them have nothing. And you can't believe how generous they all are, like what they want to give you. They're just amazing. And this is our teacher who teaches the computer stuff. And this is a picture taken from one of the weekends. So one of our schools, he teaches on the weekend, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, for the kids that can come to that. He teaches at another school for us from 4:30 to 6. So that the kids can come then. So they have their English and their computer at that school. And at another school, he's teaching from 8 to 3 or something. He's a very busy guy. And that's what one of our libraries looks like with the kids reading. Now, we started a scholarship program somewhat before COVID, but because of COVID, they took a long time to graduate because they didn't have the right equipment, the computers, and so on. But anyway, we're very pleased because 2 of them graduated in 2024 and 1 of them in 2025. So this is huge. And we started 2 new students in early 2025 and 3 in 2026. And in each of those years, we have 2 different donors in France who are supporting these kids for the whole 4 years. Now, when we support them, we started off by just paying tuition and books. We did not want to pay living. And the reason is they have to go into Phnom Penh, a lot of them, for this. And we didn't want to be responsible for 18-year-old girls, for example, living in a city that's now about 2.5 million. And so we know that they can always find, they're all very family oriented. So their mother's cousin's, friend or somebody, and that's who they go and live with. And it's much, much smarter. So we've never paid the living and we've never had to. But we did start buying them all computers when we started sending the new ones in 2025. So they get tuition and books every year and a computer the first year. And our director's getting his master's degree on weekends. I don't know how he has the time because he's also doing running the water projects. Now, sanitation, of course, all of our schools have everything, they have toilets and wells and whatnot. And we teach the kids that they have to wash their hands when they come out from the bathroom and before they go into the library and all of that. So that's just what you would consider normal. And that's what a hand washing station looks like when I talk about it. So you can see that 4 sides all have pipes. So it's easy for them to learn. And that was when we just first built that one. So we've got signs up to tell them how to do it. And we had older students teaching younger ones and etc. Now, toilets. I'm so glad we all finished our lunch early. I have to tell you that when I was first there, I was taking pictures of outhouses. Don't ask me why, I've always liked outhouses. But it didn't dawn on me when I didn't see an outhouse for the first while. And then it dawned on me, they didn't have one. They were using the field. And so this started to be one of our big things that we did. We started building toilets for impoverished families. And so why? Well, obviously, and it's not just Cambodia, but unfortunately, when the women go out to the field, they're subject to abuse. And that's not just Cambodia. That's, if you read about it, it's everywhere. But also privacy and dignity. The women in the here will know, but every man will know. Think about your wife, think about your daughter. When she's pregnant or having to, period or whatever, just have to go out to the fields. So it became very important that we did this. So for $800 Canadian, we can build a beautiful bathroom. We've got big space in them. We've designed it that way so that they can clean themselves as well. So it becomes much more than just a toilet. And by the way, they're supposed to last almost indefinitely and not have to be pumped for 40 years. And so far, we've been doing them for over 10. So far, everything's been going like it should. So that's pretty amazing. We've done 66 now. 66 families have their own toilet. And of course, it's incredibly important for health because children under the age of 6 a lot of them die from the kind of diseases that we pick up in the fields. And that's what it looks like from the outside. Now, Days for Girls, and I know some of you know Janet Thornstein. I hope I've said her name correctly. And she's wonderful. And I know Brenda's involved and some of the others I know are involved, creating effectively female kits for when the girls have their periods. The charity called Days for Girls is the one that I've always been involved with. And we used to hand carry them over. So these kits are sewn originally by first world countries and taken to third world countries. And so we could get 50 in a suitcase, and we were always really happy when we could talk some people into taking suitcases. So originally we were just giving them, but now they've started an enterprise over there, and I'm actually really happy with that. Yes, I have to raise money to pay for them. They cost me $15 US a kit plus transportation and so on, but it's really worth it because now we can do an incredible amount more. And this is the pretty backpacks that they get all the kits put in. And there's one of our teachers teaching them how, you know, what it's about, what their health is about, what their body is like. And then we distributed them. And I'm at this distribution back in 2024, and I'm posing. So the girls pose back. They're just the cutest bunch of kids. But between 2017 and 2023, we were really proud of ourselves because we'd gotten 15 suitcases over there, and that meant 750 kits. But once we could start buying them, since 24, 25, and the beginning of 26, we've already distributed another 1,610. So you can see how beneficial it is to have the enterprise there. And it gives work to women over in Cambodia. So I'm happy to have that happen. The Troy Rotary district grant that we got was put through because of a Vision for Clean Water, that charity I told you about in the US. So we even had a grant from down there to help us with it one year, which is fantastic. So now we've done over 2,300, and we're going to do another 200 very shortly, and we're going to keep going because we're now doing them at all the government schools near us. But we only give them, by the way, like we just did another one when I was there, and we had a teacher at that school. Out of the 600 and something girls, she chose 200 that were very impoverished. So we don't give them to kids whose family can't afford them, but certainly there's so many that can't. And by the way, that cost that I quoted for the kit is probably how much it would cost for paper products for 3 months. And with proper cleaning, they'll last 3 years. So I think you can see that economically, they're fantastic. Okay, now let's talk about government schools. An unusual statistic, probably 30 to 40% of the schools in the world do not have toilets. When I first heard that, I was sort of unbelieving. But of course, I've started to think about it. Of course, Canada, the US, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, you know, blah, 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 lots of South America, they have toilets. But then you start thinking about countries like Cambodia, and when you find out that so many of the government schools there do not, then you see where the statistics come from. So I want you to think about this as another problem, not just for the girls, but for the boys, because they have to still go to school for the day. And there they are, they have to go out to the fields. So pretty horrendous. So for the girls to stay in school, we need the government schools to have the toilets, and we also need them to have the proper female kits. So our emphasis has been on getting the schools near us, the government schools near us, to have the proper hygiene. We have now done 36 government schools. We've dug 17 wells, put in 27 banks of toilets, built 21 hand stations, and in a couple of places had to build water towers because the well wouldn't work certain times of the year. And so we needed to store water for them. But anyway, that's a great statistic as far as I'm concerned. And here's a picture of some of the water projects that we've done. I'm up in the middle on the top there. I make unexpected visits to places that we've already built something. Why? Because I want to make sure that everybody's keeping them clean. Secondly, they all know when I'm there now. I mean, I'm well known in the area. And of course, it's pretty obvious to spot me. So but it's really good because it makes everybody well aware that how seriously we take it too. But I have to tell you, I've never been disappointed. They're clean. They keep them clean. They're proud of them. So lastly, from a health point of view, I guess it was about 3.5 years ago now, maybe a little longer, we found out that a lot of the health centers were using pond water. Now, a health center is, in our terms, more than a doctor's clinic, but less than a hospital. But women go and give birth there, men go and maybe get, sewn up for something, or small things, not big operations. A big operation, you go into the capital city or you go to a hospital. But small things, each one supports around 12,000 people, a number of villages and the surrounding areas. So they're very important. So what did we do? Well, we found out that some of them had wells, but when the hydro goes out, which happens a lot, the well stops working. So it was very simple. If they had a well, we had to build a water tower. So we would pump from the well to the water tower, and then from the water tower, pipes going down into the health center. When everything's working, it all works like charm. When the hydro quits, gravity takes over and the water comes down from the water tower. So it's perfect. Now, a lot of them didn't have wells, so we dug the wells. And I think you can see how inexpensive this little thing is. So a wonderful solution. And by the way, we don't just kind of dream up these solutions. We talk to them, of course, and find out what they think is going to work. And that's what a health center looks like. And that's what a tower looks like. We were there for the final building of it. How do we raise our money? I get asked this a lot, so I just want to tell you, we raise most of it through bridge events. Barbara has written something like 39 bridge books. For those that play bridge, you probably know her name. I have, and she also teaches, I have been a tournament director and taught directors, worked in both Canada and the US for many years doing this, like 15. So we know all kinds of people in the bridge world. On top of it, we're running a concert this May. I'm happy to tell you that we're now on a wait list. We've sold out. Robert Pilon, who was the Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera, and he was Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, does a charity once a year, and we're his charity this year. So that's fantastic. And district grants. I'm now going to be submitting my 3rd district grant, and it's going to be for health centers again. And it would be lovely if you folks would like to support it. And we'll just be digging wells and building water towers. I want to try to get health centers with clean water in the 2 provinces. Our strategy is very simple. We try to give a hand up, not a handout. We're very careful about how we give the money. We don't just throw it around. And we're very careful about trying to help the whole community. And that's why we do it. Thank you for your time. Okay, sure.
5 minutes for questions.